Welcome to a free training video on what is phonics and phonics into reading. So phonics is the basis of all reading, and it's a bit trickier these days because adults sort of probably over 2025 would not have actually learnt the system of phonics when we learned to read, so it can be a total minefield for parents. So I wanted to do some free training events to share my knowledge about phonics and how you can support your child at home. So first of all, what is phonics? It's a systematic approach that all schools use to teach letters and their corresponding sound, and then that forms the basis of spelling, reading and writing. So it's a systematic system that they work through, where they learn the sounds in an order. So I will switch cameras, very fancy I know, and show you. This is the letters and sounds government scheme, and this is phase 3. So there's phase 1 and phase 2 first, but as you can see, it clearly lays out they learn these ones, then they learn these ones, and then they work their way through these lists. So it systematically builds up over time the sounds that they need to learn, and that gradually enables them to learn more words. So a phoneme is the sound that you can hear. So for example, the phoneme here is V for van. A grapheme is the written correspondence, so it's the letter V that they write down. Okay, so it's a correspondence between letter V and the sound V. Okay, so that is what phonics actually is. So how does it build up? So they actually start by lots of songs, rhyme, rhythm, learning to listen to sounds all around them. Then they start to gradually introduce single sounds. Okay, so I will have a look at we can have a look at these together in a minute. They look at single sounds, and then they move on to 2 letters, 1 sound, which is called a digraph, and a trigraph, which is 3 letters, 1 sound. And it's really important that it builds up slowly, so that it enables the children to be able to feel confident in their reading. That is the whole point of phonics. So they'll initially start with satpin, S-A-T-P-I-N. You can see single sound, 1 letter. Another one, so we've got t and So they learn single sounds, and at the same time as learning those single sounds, they will learn some corresponding words, and these are called CVC, which means consonant, vowel, consonant. Sorry, it's super shiny there. So for example, they would have learnt the sound D, the sound I, and the sound N, and now they should be able to confidently sound that D, I, N. Din. Another example, a, n, man. So it builds up to be able to read these very simple words. You can start to introduce some 4-letter words as they gradually increase the digraphs. In the next phase, they'll start coming across 2 letters, 1 sound. So they're going to come across sounds like E, A, and it's really important that they start to recognize that 2 letters next to each other can make 1 sound. That's why they build up the sound so slowly, because you don't want the children to go because when it gets to a word, that will no longer make any sense. So there's a lot of strong teaching around 2 letters, 1 sound. And it's really important that they begin to recognize these. And each of the sounds, for example, E, they will spend not 1, maybe 2, possibly 3 lessons on this sound. And any sounds they haven't got, it will be repeated many, many times. So they may not pick it up the first time, but they may pick it up the 3rd time or the 5th time. They need exposure to these sounds as much as possible. And as they get exposed to the sounds, they get exposed to words with that sound in. B, E, beep. Eat. meet. And you can see these single sounds either side of our sound in the middle there are sounds that we would have already learned and be confident with. Children should never move on to a new sound or a new set of sound until they are confident with the one that they are on. So during a phonics lesson, they learn the sound, they learn to recognize it in words, and they learn to write it down. As they get exposed to these digraphs and trigraphs, at the same time, they will be introduced to these words. And this is not an exhaustive list I have here, but this is a really nice visual representation of the first set they'll come across. These are called high frequency words, HFW. And that means they will come up in their books, they will come up in anything that they want to read many, many times. And the more exposed they are to these high frequency words, the easier it will be for the children to recognize them without having to sound them out. For example, cat is a really common word that children learn early on, dog and big. They can sound these out, d, og, dog. But if they learn to recognize that visually really quickly, they will not have to sound it out when they get to it in a book or a sentence. And that will speed their reading up and increase their confidence. There are words in this high frequency word list which may be called tricky words or red words, and that means words that you cannot sound out. For example, come. If we were to sound this out, it'd be come, which makes no sense at all. So there is a distinction between high frequency words that you can sound out and high frequency words you cannot, which will be called tricky words or red words. There's actually an example on the previous page. You can see a whole list here, of those high frequency words, and they'll get tested on these in reception. You can see the first list is actually there. And for example, again, you can't sound out they. They need to recognize it quickly. So when they get to a book, it becomes a lot easier for them to read. So there's two things going on. You've got your sounds and the words that correspond that you can sound out, and then you have that list of words that you cannot sound out, and they might even be called speed words or high frequency words. Children need to be introduced to books very early on, and even when they are doing these single sounds and these CVC words, there are books available which are really simple, only have a few sentences in, and it's important to get them trying to read as soon as they are doing their phonics. And you may find the book is only 2 pages, but that's absolutely fine. So my tips now for phonics into reading. How do I get my child to be really confident reader? How do I get them to use their phonics? Or how do I get them away from constantly using their phonics and actually reading for a bit more meaning? So I'm using this book, Dragon Hiccups, which is a level Orange 6. So children will be learning their digraphs at this point. There are loads of book systems out there. I happen to really like this one, Reading Champion, but your child will get sent books from home. When I was a full-time teacher, the most common thing I would hear is the child has read the book, what else do we do? You need to spend 3 days on one book, okay? And then after that, repeatedly read the same book, because you are increasing their vocabulary knowledge, you're increasing their speed, you're increasing their exposure to some of those tricky words. The first thing you need to do is really quickly flick through the book. Have a look. What's the book actually about? It's really, I know it sounds silly, but it's so easy for you to actually miss meaning because you're so busy focusing on what the child's saying that you kind of are like, I don't even know what's going on in the story. So have a look at the pictures, and also have a look and see, are there some red words in there? Now, I've actually underlined mine in red because I use these books for teaching, but just having a look and going, oh, there's a couple of words, oh, yes, then, oh, yeah, they're not going to be able to sound that one out. Oh, this could be a particularly tricky page. Taking me 2 seconds. Done. Just so that you know when you get to that page, you're going to need to assist your child because they may not know that word, or you may need to remind them it's a red word. If you really want to go to town on it, you can actually go through and have a look at those red words with your child first and go, oh, look, there's actually a red word we're going to come across this page today. Do you know what it is? Sa'id. 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 Oh, neither of those sound right. I wonder if you could tell me. And they might know. If not, let them know. So then when they get to that page, they will hopefully feel confident enough to just go to it and carry on, rather than keep sticking them on the sentence, or getting them stuck on that word and stuck on that sentence. The next thing is to let the child have a look at all the pictures first. Oh, what's going on in this picture? They don't have to go into too much detail, but oh, look, he's burnt something. Let them talk. Oh, what's he doing now? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Really quickly. Don't have to chat about it for ages. I want you to have a good look at the pictures. So much of meaning will come from the picture that it will really help them with the words, particularly in some of the books that are even lower in the book band than this. They will get their answer. The boy had a, and you could say jumper. What kind of jumper? Oh, red. It will be in the picture. It's really important that they use the picture for meaning. Okay, so once you've had a look at that, they start reading. Some children find it really easy to put their finger underneath, and I call that the magic finger trick. Some children really find that hard. Some children find, particularly if they're dyslexic, white or black is very confusing for them. The words can get jumbled. So for early reading, or anyone that's struggling with reading, I get a magic pointer or a magic card. This is literally a piece of glittery foam. Simple as that. From from Hobbycraft or something like that. So you can either lay it underneath the sentence like that and help them just to be focusing on that one. You can then turn it around and use it as a pointer. Once your child is more confident and there's less words they're getting stuck on, you can remove this. But this is a really good way of helping them to slow down and pay attention to the sounds. You can also use it to block things off and go, oh, we know that tricky word. I haven't underlined it because I know you know that one. I wonder if you can recognize it. And then you can go from there. So it can be used for pointing, sliding, or blocking bits off like that. Then you ask them to read in whichever way, if they want to point using their finger or just using the card. D-I-M-P-Y. Dimpya. Oh, that's a tricky one. What sound does that make normally at the end of the word? Like in party. What sound can you hear at the end of party? E. So instead of just giving them the word, sometimes it's worth pointing that out. Pointing some spellings out, pointing some particular sounds out, because that comes up commonly. You might also want to go, who do you think Dimpy is? Who's Dimpy? Let's find out. Dimpy the dragon. It's the main character. So you can stop. You don't need to constantly let the child go on if there's important things to point out. Her ad had the hiccups. Dragon. Oh, you just saw that word. Can you remember what it said? Hiccups. So you also want to encourage your children, if there's a word that's going to come up lots and lots of times in the book, hiccups, 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 you want to point that out and stop them from sounding it out every time, because it will really slow them down. So actually you want to say, okay, we're going to remember this word when it comes up again. Hiccups. Have you ever had hiccups? And actually discuss the meaning of it. Sometimes we just assume they know what's going on, but sometimes they might have been spending so long sounding it out, they have totally lost the meaning. Or they're just reading and they're not at the reading for meaning stage. They're still at this phonetical decomposition stage, decoding. So that means literally working out what the word says, that they don't know what the meaning is. They haven't had hiccups before, or maybe they haven't in their brain, they haven't associated what they've just sounded out with hiccups. So it is worth going over that. Excuse me. Carrying on. Ooh, at the end of the word, it makes an E sound. Every. Well, this one's a tricky. This one's got a split I in it, and you might actually want to help them with this. Time. Every time she went, hick. Ooh, this is going to be a tricky word. Let's finish the sentence. Came out of her mouth. What came out of her mouth? Ah, fire. Can you point to the fire on the page? So there's lots of strategies where you can help them without reading for them. It's just about looking at the sentence and going, what words am I confident that they can sound out on their own? Which words do they need help with? Which words can I help them infer more information from? And then if they get really, really stuck, like, oh, could you just tell me what's going on this page? What's happening? Oh, there's a dragon. They're breathing out fire. Oh no, they set fire to a tree. Who else? Who do you think these people are in the background? And then that will help when they get to Dimpy's. I'm going to underline this one in red. This one is a tricky word. This one says friends. Can you point to her friends? Dimpy's friends. So you can see I'm not rushing it. I'm really taking my time over the page. You might only read 2 pages, maybe 3. That would be really, really good. But that's absolutely fine. So it's about slowing down, taking your time. There's so many skills involved with that early reading, particularly when they're moving from phonics into reading and applying those skills. We cannot assume that they know the meaning of the text, the meaning of the words. They can't, inferring information. We have to explicitly teach them that. But also we have to be very aware of what stage of phonics they actually are at. Are they, is this book going to be too difficult for them? Do I need to give them more support? Do I need to go through and actually find all those red words? Do I need to support them with a reading pencil or a reading ruler? So it's really important that you have a look at the book first, take your time, slow down, and then also don't just think, oh, they've read the book now, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to go back to the teacher and say, well, they've read it. They need to read it 3 times at a minimum. And they might go, oh, I'm bored, I've already read it. But each time they'll pick up more vocabulary, they will infer more information. So it's really, really important that you don't move them on too quickly. And then if they genuinely have read it 3 times, they're absolutely flying with it on the 3rd time, amazing, and there's no other books to read. What are you going to do? Okay, final thing then, storybooks. They are very much designed for adults to read to children. So I'll show you again under my camera, and that is what they're meant for you to read them to your child, which is great, which is really, really great. And what the children gain from that is they start to gain things like rhythm, rhyme, intonation, meaning, more vocabulary. Even if you read it to them and they just follow along. So you might just read it to them and they look at the pictures first time. Second time, how about, should we read it together? They could easily read. If they were reading that other book there, the dragon book, they could easily read some of these words. Why not give it a go? It will require more support from you, but it's important to enable them to build their vocabulary range. So listening to you read is really important, but also letting them be exposed to storybooks, rhythm, rhyme, poetry, all sorts of different types of text is really, really important in a bigger scheme of reading and enjoying reading as well. So don't throw the picture books away. Even older children, actually, they can come back into their own and they can be used for many other things, writing their own poem. Can they write their own story? Can they use that rhythm and rhyme to create their own stories? I think anything like that is really, really important. So that kind of concludes the training. I really hope it was helpful. I'm just going to do a quick recap of what I've said. So Phonics is a systematic approach to teaching letters and sounds, which are the sound is a phoneme, the written correspondence is a grapheme. It builds up from single sounds to 2 letters and 3 letters, which is one sound, digraphs and trigraphs, longer words, and also then your high frequency words, which come up a lot in different books. You need to take your time reading. You need to make sure they've got an age appropriate book from their school. It needs to be read 3 times. Using a reading ruler and or pointer is very, very helpful. Have a look at the book first, discuss the pictures, and have a look for yourself to see, are there words that they're not going to be able to stand now? Are there some tricky words that are going to get them stuck? Are there some words they have no idea what the meaning is? And we can look at that together. It really only takes about 1 minute of your time to do that before you read the book. And enjoy it. Enjoy reading. Actually, I started as quite a poor reader. My sister was always the reading loads of books, and I really struggled in primary. It wasn't until about year 5 that really it just clicked with me. So some children, it does just take longer. Don't stress, just keep going with it. If you want any other help, please let me know. I'm actually going to put out a guide with this phonics into reading. It's only $1.99. So if you want this in written format to be able to take away, if you are a home educated parent, if you're a tutor and you're watching this, or you're a parent and you just really want to know, how do I help my child, or my child is dyslexic, or has dyslexic tendencies, or I'm worried about that, the guide is there for you, to make sure that you've got all that information to support you. Just $1.99. All of this information that I've gone through will be on there, and I might even chuck a free resource in there for you, a nice little simple reading comprehension. So yeah, thanks so much if you've watched it, and I'd love to hear your feedback. If there's anything you need, you know where I am. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.